Hello. I've decided to change my intro, but I'll have to make another one. I'll do that soon. Meanwhile, I want to remind you that I am on Rumble, BitChute and Minds, and I have uploaded something to Rumble, by the way, which I can't upload to YouTube. I did that a few hours ago, so you might want to look that up as well. And I'm also on Twitter, Gab and Parler. So if I get shut down, you can find out what happened by checking out Grannyopteryx on one of those platforms. By the way, somebody sent me a link. It was a link to a video which appeared to be two people talking about home remedies or something. I can't get any more specific than that. And while I was watching it, it suddenly went blank. And there was a thing up saying YouTube deleted, video deleted. It's happening all over the place, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to get on to this article in the Daily Mail. And the headline is, Police visit parish councillor's home to warn him he faces arrest over Facebook post that read, "Trans rights are very, very boring." Now, I'm not dealing with trans rights as a subject. What I'm going to be talking about is how our police are behaving. But first, I have to make something clear. It looks to me very much as if this particular parish councillor, here's a photo of him, well, he does look a bit like a smug bastard, doesn't he? And since he got reported to the police by a member of the council staff, I reckon he's probably not that popular in the council itself, which is not an arrestable offence. I have to jump in and tell you. His Facebook post is, well, it's a little ill-mannered, especially, well, for somebody who is after all, a community officer, a parish councillor. However, that's not the point. Even smug bastards who are a little bit rude have the right to make bad jokes. We may not like them, but they're not illegal. Now, this man made a slightly rude comment on a Facebook posting, and the next morning he got a visit from the police. And you should yourselves regard this as a warning. A little while ago I saw a video clip in which a lawyer of some sort, I don't remember exactly what, warned viewers with these words, "The police are not your friends." So, and then he carried on to tell people you shouldn't treat them as if they were, or respond to them as friends, however gently they might be talking to you. And this man nearly made that mistake, but he got rescued before he'd fallen into the pit towards which the police, it seems, were trying to guide him. Now, what does it say here? A parish councillor was visited at home by two police officers and told he faced arrest over a Facebook post he shared about trans rights. Andrew Wilgoss, 58, posted a photoshopped image of campaigners holding signs at an LGBT conference at Westminster in October, with the wording on the placards altered, as photoshopped, you know. And in the original image, the two signs both had the message, "Trans rights are human rights." But in the photo Mr. Wilgoss shared to the Facebook group Surrey Heath Matters, the words had been changed to "Trans rights are very, very boring." You know, that's not really fair to do that, by the way. I disapprove of photoshopping other people's campaign stuff, whatever you think of them. But again, it's not an arrestable offence. It's just, a bad joke. An enforcement officer for Surrey Heath Council is understood to have reported Mr. Wilgoss to the police, and officers knocked at the home he shares with his mother in Bagshot, Surrey, last Sunday. Mr. Wilgoss, a parish councillor for Surrey Heath, who also works in garden maintenance, said the officers told him he may have committed a public order offence. Do you notice that? If he's reporting correctly what they said to him, they said he may have committed a public order offence. Now, the police themselves would have had plenty of time to check that one out in their office before they went out to visit him, wouldn't they? So they could have checked in their little book whether this was a public order offence. It's not as if they suspected him of doing something. What he did was right there in front of them on their screens in black and white. Therefore, if they say he may have done something, it means he hadn't done anything at all and they had no proof of it. They were definitely chancing their arm with him, weren't they? Just trying to con him into making some sort of a confession to continue. And he should attend an interview to explain his actions. How do you explain you're making a joke? He said he was told if he did not attend, he may be arrested over the image. And then they left the poor fellow with the threat that he faced up to 6 months in jail for hate crime or public order offence or whatever it was. I am at a loss to understand what the police thought they were doing. They were conning someone into confessing to a crime that wasn't a crime. Did they think this would help society at large? Did they think this would give them any job satisfaction? Well, only if they're a bunch of sadists. I really don't understand. Well, actually I do, because I came across something a bit later on when I was researching Surrey Police. I'll get to that in a minute. But if there are any police in that area who want to tell me what possible logic or reason they may have had for their behaviour, then please contact me, grannyopteryx@gmail.com, to explain what you thought you were doing. I am obviously a woman of very little brain because I'm, well, as I said, I'm at a loss to understand what you thought you were about, and I'd be really interested for some sort of an explanation. Now, this is the important bit from your point of view, dear viewer. Mr. Wilgoss had been intimidated into agreeing to meet a more senior officer the following day. Doing that would have been a terrible mistake. But fortunately, he was saved from making it because a Superman called Harry Miller got in touch with him and advised him that on no account should Mr. Wilgoss put himself into the hands of the police in that way. You might have heard of Super Miller. A couple of years ago, Humberside-based Harry Miller forwarded a tweet he found amusing, and it caught the eye of Humberside Police. And the next day, a cop went round to Mr. Miller's place of work, demanding to see him and asserting that he'd been guilty of a hate incident or some such thing. And the policeman had to talk to him immediately. Now, this was at his place of work, remember. In many circumstances, that sort of an allegation with the police stomping round could have lost Mr. Miller his job if he'd been a low man on the totem pole. Fortunately for Mr. Miller, and unfortunately for Humberside Police, Harry Miller happened to own the business. And he wasn't going to sack himself, especially when he knew he hadn't done anything wrong. And even more unfortunately for Humberside Police, he was sure he hadn't done anything wrong, because it turns out that Super Miller was a retired, well, is a retired policeman who knew exactly the limits of the law. He turned that police officer inside out, and then he proceeded to turn Humberside Constabulary inside out. and dragged it so far through the courts that the law had to be reinterpreted. And that's another reason why I can't understand why the Surrey police were trying to do the same thing to Mr. Wilgoss. Surely they knew about the Harry Miller case. Really, if there's somebody in the Surrey police who can actually read and write, get in touch with me, grannyopteryx@gmail, and let me know why you thought it a good idea to go in for this sort of a con trick when it's already been tested through the courts. I mean, is the crime level in Surrey so low that you have to make things up so you can keep your jobs? Or is it that the senior officers are busy doing other things, as in this headline? Right, well, not exactly saints yourselves, are you? After getting advice from Harry Miller, Mr. Wilgoss told the police he wasn't going. And finally, we get this. Surrey police last night confirmed no further action would be taken. A spokesman said, added, the matter was later reviewed to assess the evidence, and it was determined that further action would not be proportionate. Oh yeah. Like those web pages, you know, the ones you visit and they say, we take your privacy seriously. Or those phone calls, they say, wait online, your call is important to us. Or the drunk who had only a couple just before he got into the car. As for the council, when the Daily Mail got in touch with them, they said, we take all complaints about the conduct of elected members seriously. Yeah. Well, my guess is that he wasn't that well liked by the enforcement officer who thought he'd do a bit of mischief. At least that's my guess. So, I have some advice for the police. Enforce the law, chaps. Especially among yourselves. Not the law you make up, but the law of the land. You know, burglars, muggers, murderers, and well, officers doing a bit worse than making bad jokes. As for Surrey Heath Council, do you really need that enforcement officer? Whatever that is. How about sticking to keeping the place neat and tidy and, you know, collecting the rubbish every week, repairing the roads, that sort of stuff, and leave the thought crime to the psychiatrists? Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Grannyopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.grannyopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.